Captain Lee Do-yun sat quietly in the great chamber of Nexus Prime. Around him, representatives from 12 alien species talked in loud voices. Their words echoed off the tall walls made of smooth black stone. The chamber was built to make visitors feel small. It worked on most species. It did not work on humans. Lee Do-hyun wore his simple blue uniform. No gold decorations, no shiny medals, just clean fabric and polished buttons. His hands rested on his knees. His back was straight. His face showed nothing. He had learned long ago that showing emotion in these meetings was a mistake. The Valdari representative stood up. His 6 arms moved as he spoke. His voice was high and sharp. The humans refuse to follow our laws. They keep their own military. They ask too many questions. They do not respect our wisdom. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. The Keth delegate nodded her scaled head. The Morin ambassador clicked his claws on the metal table. All of them agreed. Humans were trouble. Ambassador Park Min-ho sat beside Lee Do-hyun. Park was older, with gray hair and kind eyes behind thin glasses. He had been talking to these aliens for 3 years. 3 years of trying to make them understand. 3 years of getting nowhere. "We came here as equals," Park said softly. "We joined your council to work together. Not to become your servants." The chamber erupted in angry sounds. Hisses, clicks, and growls filled the air. The Zephyrian delegate stood on his 4 legs and waved his tentacles. "Equals? You have been in space for less than 50 years? We have traveled the stars for thousands of years? What could you possibly teach us?" Lee Do-yun watched it all with calm eyes. He had seen this before, on Earth, in the military, in business, meetings. Fear dressed up as anger, pride hiding weakness. The aliens were afraid of humans, though they would never admit it. Dr. Kim Nari shifted in her seat. She was young for such an important job. Only 35, but already the smartest person most people had ever met. She studied alien technology, trying to understand how it worked. The aliens did not like her questions. They wanted humans to use their machines without understanding them. "The human questions are disturbing," said the Altarian speaker. His voice sounded like wind through metal tubes. "They want to know why our engines work. They want to see inside our computers. They do not accept that some knowledge is not for them." Kim Nari almost smiled. Almost. She had learned many things by asking questions, things the aliens did not want her to know. Their technology was not as advanced as they claimed. In some ways, human science was already better. Admiral Yoon Tae-hyung stood at the back of the human section. He was a big man with broad shoulders and steady eyes. He commanded Earth's independent fleet. 20 ships that the aliens wanted disbanded. 20 ships that Earth refused to give up. "Your military is unnecessary," the Keth delegate said. "We protect all council members. You do not need your own ships." Yoon Tae-hyung spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and calm. "We protect ourselves. We always have. We always will." The aliens did not like this answer. They whispered among themselves in their strange languages. Lee Do-hyun understood more than they knew. He had learned their words during his time here. Another thing they did not like about humans: they learned too fast. The High Chancellor of the Council stood up. He was Valdari, like the first speaker, but older and more decorated. Golden bands covered his 6 arms. His voice carried the weight of authority. "We have made our decision," he announced. "The humans must choose. Accept full integration under galactic law, or leave the council. You have 1 day to decide. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the human delegation. This was the moment everyone had expected. The moment when humans would beg or threaten, or make promises they could not keep. Lee Do-yun stood up slowly. He was not tall, but something about him made the aliens lean forward. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each delegate. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. "We understand." That was all. 2 words. No arguments, no pleas, no anger. Just acceptance. Park Min-ho nodded and stood as well. "We will need time to contact Earth." "You have until tomorrow," the High Chancellor said. He seemed surprised by the calm response. The human delegation filed out of the chamber without another word. Behind them, the aliens began talking excitedly. This was not how they expected humans to react. In their quarters that night, the humans held a private meeting. The rooms were small and plain. The aliens had not given them the best accommodations. Another small insult in a long list of insults. "Earth's response came an hour ago," Park Min-ho said. He held a small device that showed words on a glowing screen. "President Kim says we are to withdraw with dignity. No arguments. No threats. We leave quietly." Kim Nari looked up from her tablet. "I've finished copying their technical databases. Everything we need to understand their technology." Admiral Yoon smiled grimly. "The fleet is already moving. All ships are heading to the outer rim. We'll be gone before they know it." Lee Do-yun walked to the window. Outside, alien ships moved. Between the space stations that orbited Nexus Prime, thousands of vessels from dozens of species, all following the same old patterns, all thinking the same old thoughts. "They think we're primitive," he said quietly. "They think we're weak because we ask questions. They think we're stupid because we want to understand instead of just obey." "Are we making a mistake?" Park Min-ho asked. "Leaving, I mean. Maybe we could learn from them." Kim Nari shook her head. "We've learned all we can from them. Their science stopped growing centuries ago. They became comfortable. They stopped asking why." Admiral Yun Tae-hyung joined Lee at the window. "What's our next move, Captain?" Lee Do-yun was quiet for a long moment. In the distance, a human cargo ship was loading supplies, getting ready to leave. Soon, all traces of humanity would be gone from this place. "We go home," he said finally. "We take what we've learned, and we grow. We explore. We ask questions. We find our own path among the stars." The next morning, the human delegation returned to the council chamber. The aliens were already there, waiting to hear Earth's decision. Some looked eager. Others seemed almost sad. A few appeared worried, though they tried to hide it. Lee Do-yun stood before the council one last time. He wore the same simple uniform. His face showed the same calm expression. But something had changed. The aliens could feel it, though they could not name what it was. "Earth's decision is made," he announced. "We withdraw from the Galactic Council. Our ships are already leaving your space. Our people are returning home. We thank you for the opportunity to serve alongside you." He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect, not submission. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. The other humans followed. "Wait," called the High Chancellor. "What will you do now? Where will you go?" Lee Do-yun paused at the doorway. He looked back one last time at the chamber full of aliens, at the representatives of species that thought they knew everything about the universe. "We will find our own way," he said simply. Then he was gone. The human ships disappeared into the darkness between stars. They left behind empty stations and unanswered questions. The aliens had gotten what they wanted. Earth was gone. They had no idea what they had just set in motion. 3 years had passed since the humans left. The Galactic Council continued its meetings in the Great Chamber of Nexus Prime. The empty seats where the human delegation once sat had been removed. Most aliens pretended to forget that humans had ever been there at all. Commander Oji-Wan floated in the darkness between stars. Her ship was small and painted black to hide from sensors. She watched through her telescope as another pirate fleet approached a peaceful colony world. The colony belonged to a species called the Harani. They were not part of the Galactic Council. They were on their own. The pirates had 12 ships, big ones with heavy weapons. The Harani colony had no defenses. Their people lived simple lives, growing food and raising families. They would not survive this attack. Oji-Wan touched her communicator. This is Shadow 7. Pirates moving on Harani colony. Permission to engage? The voice that answered came from very far away. Permission granted, Shadow 7. Leave no witnesses. Oji-Wan smiled. She had been waiting for this moment all week. Her ship moved forward silently. The pirates never saw her coming. The first pirate ship exploded in a flash of blue light, then the second, then the third. The remaining ships turned to fight, but they found nothing, only empty space and the burning remains of their friends. One by one, the pirate ships died. Their weapons fired at shadows. Their sensors showed nothing. In 10 minutes, it was over. 12 ships reduced to floating metal and memories. Oji-Wan watched the debris scatter into space. Then she turned her ship toward home. Another job finished. Another innocent world saved. The pirates would tell no stories because there were no pirates left to tell them. On the colony world below, the Harani people looked up at the sky. They saw the lights of the battle, but they did not understand what happened. Later, they would find pieces of pirate ships floating near their planet. They would wonder who had saved them. They would never know. Far away, in a hidden system beyond. The edge of mapped space, engineer Choi Hyun-woo worked on something that should not exist. The machine before him was the size of a building. It hummed with power that came from sources the Galactic Council had never dreamed of. Choi Hyun-woo was young, barely 30, but his hands moved with the skill of someone who had built impossible things his entire life. The machine he worked on could bend space itself. It could make distances shorter. It could hide entire star systems from view. "How many more do we need?" asked his assistant, a woman named Lee Sora. 50, Choi Hyun-woo replied without looking up from his work. Maybe 60. Each one covers a different sector. When we're done, we can protect everything. Lee Sora nodded. She had stopped asking how such things were possible. Human science had grown in ways that surprised even humans. Being alone in the dark had forced them to think in new directions. In another part of the hidden system, scientist Kang So-min stared at readings that made no sense according to old rules. She was working on something called Project Homecoming. The name was a joke. They were not going home. They were making the entire galaxy their home. "The quantum field is stable," she reported to her team. "We can begin the next phase." Her team worked around the clock. They were building something that would change everything. Not a weapon, not a shield. Something else. Something that would make the Galactic Council's technology look like stone tools. Captain Song Ji-hoon patrolled the boundaries of known space in a ship that looked nothing like the vessels humans once built. It was sleek and fast, powered by engines that harvested energy from the vacuum itself. His crew was small but skilled. Each person could do the work of 10. "Captain," his sensor officer called out. "Unknown vessel approaching. Configuration. Matches Keth design." Song Ji-hoon looked at the screen. A Keth exploration ship moved slowly through the outer rim. It was alone and far from home, probably looking for new worlds to claim for the Council. "Let them pass," Song Ji-hoon ordered. "But watch them. If they find anything important, we may need to act." The Keth ship continued on its path. Its crew had no idea they were being watched. They scanned empty space and found nothing unusual. The human colonies were hidden too well. The human ships were too advanced to detect. Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council received reports that troubled them. Trade routes in the Outer Rim had become safer. Pirate attacks had dropped by 90%. Several dangerous criminal organizations had simply vanished. "This makes no sense," complained the Valdari representative. His 6 arms waved in frustration. "Pirates do not just disappear. Someone is hunting them." The Altarian delegate made sounds like wind through broken glass. "Our patrols report finding debris fields, ships destroyed by weapons we do not recognize." "Who has such weapons?" asked the Keth representative. Her scales changed color when she was worried. Right now, they were very dark. The High Chancellor looked around the chamber, the same chamber where humans had once sat quietly, asking their annoying questions. "Perhaps it is another species, one we have not contacted yet." None of them suggested it might be humans. Humans were primitive. Humans were gone. Humans could not possibly have such advanced technology. In the Outer Rim, more strange things happened. A mining colony under attack by slavers found their attackers destroyed overnight. A research station surrounded by hostile aliens woke to find empty space around them. Ship after ship vanished when they threatened peaceful worlds. The survivors all told the same story. They were attacked by nothing. Their ships exploded for no reason. Their weapons hit empty air. Then silence. Some mentioned seeing brief flashes of light. Others reported strange energy readings. A few claimed to hear voices speaking in an unknown language, but these were dismissed as panic and imagination. Dr. Kim Nari, now working in a laboratory that did not officially exist, made breakthrough after breakthrough. The alien technology she had studied during her time with the Council had been just the beginning. Human scientists had taken those basic ideas and built something entirely new. "We have solved faster-than-light communication," she announced to her research team. "Full quantum entanglement across galactic distances, real-time coordination of all our forces." Her team cheered. This was the missing piece they had needed. Now their scattered ships could work together perfectly. Now their hidden colonies could share information instantly. Now they could protect the entire galaxy as if it were a single world. Admiral Yoon Tae-hyung stood on the bridge of his flagship. It was not called Earth Defense anymore. Now it was called something else. Something that reflected their new mission. The ship's name was painted in simple letters: Guardian. Around him, his fleet moved through dimensions that normal ships could not reach. They traveled between points of light that existed outside regular space. They could appear anywhere in the galaxy within hours. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving requests for assistance from 17 different systems. All are outside Council space." Yoon Tae-hyung nodded. Word was spreading. Somehow, peaceful worlds were learning that protection was available. They did not know who provided it. They only knew that if they called for help, help would come. "Dispatch our patrol groups," he ordered. "Full stealth protocols. No one sees us coming or going." The Guardian fleet split into smaller groups and vanished. They reappeared across the galaxy, invisible guardians watching over worlds that had been forgotten by the great powers. On a distant planet, a council survey team made a discovery that would change everything. They found a structure orbiting a star in an unexplored system. The structure was enormous, it was clearly artificial, and it was built with technology that surpassed anything in council records. The survey leader, a nervous Moran named Cleth, sent his report back to Nexus Prime with shaking claws. "This is impossible," he transmitted. "No known species could build such a thing. The energy readings are off our scales. The materials are unknown to our science. The structure was a ring. It circled the entire star, harvesting its energy for purposes unknown. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Whoever built it had power beyond imagination." Back on Nexus Prime, the Council emergency session was chaos. Representatives shouted in a dozen languages. Accusations flew. Fear filled the chamber like a living thing. "Who built it?" demanded the High Chancellor. No one had an answer. The structure matched no known architectural style. The technology was completely foreign. Yet somehow, it felt familiar to those who had seen human engineering. "Perhaps," suggested the Keth delegate quietly, "we should consider that we may not be the most advanced civilization in the galaxy." The chamber fell silent. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council faced the possibility that they were not in control. In the darkness beyond their knowledge, humanity continued to grow. The attack came without warning. The planet Xerion was home to 3 billion Zephyrians. It had been peaceful for over 200 years. The people there had never seen war. They thought their distance from dangerous space would keep them safe. They were wrong. The invaders called themselves the Iron Fang. They were raiders from the dark regions beyond mapped space. Their ships were black and covered with spikes. They took what they wanted and burned the rest. Xerion had resources they needed. The people living there were just in the way. 20 Iron Fang warships entered Xerion's system just after dawn. The planet's defense force had 3 small patrol boats. They sent distress signals in all directions, but help was days away. The Iron Fang would finish their work long before any council ships arrived. Admiral Han Sung-min received the distress call on his flagship. The ship was called New Horizon, and it traveled through folded space at speeds that broke old physics. Han was 45 years old, with steady hands and calm eyes. He had been fighting pirates and raiders for 2 years. He had never lost a battle. "How long to reach Xerion?" he asked his navigation officer. 18 minutes, sir." Han nodded. 18 minutes was enough time. The Iron Fang would still be gathering their forces for the main attack. They always took their time. They enjoyed the fear they created. "Signal the fleet. Jump in 3 minutes. Full stealth until we're in position." The New Horizon and 6 escort ships vanished from their patrol area. They reappeared in Xerion's system like ghosts materializing from nothing. The Iron Fang ships never saw them coming. The first Iron Fang warship exploded while its crew was still planning their attack. The second died before it could raise shields. The third managed to fire 1 shot before it became floating debris. The remaining Iron Fang ships turned to fight an enemy they could not see. Their sensors showed empty space. Their weapons hit nothing. One by one, they died in flashes of blue and white light. In 15 minutes, it was over. 20 warships reduced to wreckage. The Iron Fang had met something stronger than themselves. They would spread no more fear. The human fleet appeared briefly to the Zephyrian people. 7 sleek ships unlike anything in known space. They sent a simple message to the planet below. You are safe. We are friends. Then they vanished again, leaving behind only grateful survivors and confused questions. Director Lee Yerim watched the battle reports in her command center. The center was hidden inside an asteroid that looked empty from the outside. Inside, it was full of screens and communication equipment. Lee ran the Human Intelligence Division. She knew everything that happened in human space and most of what happened everywhere else. That's the 5th major intervention this month, her assistant reported. The aliens are starting to notice patterns. Lee Yerim was a small woman with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She had been watching alien communications for months. The Galactic Council was asking more questions. Some alien species were starting to wonder about their mysterious protectors. Let them notice, she said quietly. It's almost time for them to know who we really are. 3 days after the Zerion rescue, Captain Nam Dongwu received new orders. His ship, the New Soul, was humanity's most advanced vessel. It could travel faster than anything else in the galaxy. It could become invisible to all known sensors. Most importantly, it could appear anywhere in seconds. Nam was young for a captain, only 32, but he had proven himself in a dozen battles. His crew trusted him completely. They would follow him into any danger. Our destination is Nexus Prime, he announced to his officers. We're going to introduce ourselves. The bridge fell silent. Nexus Prime was the capital of the Galactic Council. It was the most heavily defended system in known space. No enemy had ever attacked it successfully. Sir, his tactical officer said carefully, that's deep in Council space. If they detect us... Nam smiled. They won't detect us, and we're not going there to fight. We're going there to talk. The New Soul jumped to hyperspace, moving through dimensions that Council science could not detect. It would arrive at Nexus Prime in 6 hours. By then, everything would change. On Nexus Prime, the Council was meeting in emergency session. The reports kept coming in. Unknown ships saving colonies, pirates vanishing overnight, impossible technology appearing in distant systems. Someone was operating in their space without permission. We must identify these intruders, declared the High Chancellor. His 6 arms moved in agitation. No one acts in Council space without our approval. The Keth representative showed images. On the main screen, wreckage from destroyed pirate ships, energy readings that made no sense, brief glimpses of vessels that vanished before proper scans could be taken. The technology is beyond our understanding, she admitted. Whoever they are more advanced than us. Angry voices filled the chamber. The council members did not like admitting anyone was better than them. They were the rulers of the galaxy. They were the most advanced civilizations. How could someone surpass them? Perhaps, suggested the Altarian delegate. We should try to contact them. These unknown protectors seem to help peaceful worlds. Maybe they would help us too. Some council members agreed. Others wanted to send warships to hunt down the intruders. The argument grew louder and more heated. That was when the New Soul appeared. It materialized directly above Nexus Prime's main city. One moment there was empty sky. The next moment there was a ship unlike anything they had ever seen. It was sleek and beautiful, like a work of art made from light and metal. Every alarm on the planet screamed warnings. Defense platforms powered up their weapons. Fighter squadrons launched from hidden bases. The entire Council fleet prepared for battle. The new soul did nothing. It simply hung in the sky, waiting. Captain Nam Dong-woo opened a communication channel to the planet below. His voice was calm and clear. He spoke in perfect galactic standard, the language all council members understood. "This is Captain Nam Dong-woo of the Human Defense Corps. I request permission to address the Galactic Council." Silence filled the communication channel. Then chaos erupted. "Humans?" The High Chancellor gasped. "Impossible. Humans are primitive. They have no such technology." "We scanned that ship," reported the defense commander. "It shows no propulsion system, no weapon signatures, no life support readings. It's like it doesn't exist." Nam waited patiently for them to finish their arguments. Finally, the High Chancellor spoke again. "Human ship, you will surrender immediately. You are in violation of Council space." "I am here under the right of diplomatic contact," Nam replied. "I carry a message from Earth to the Galactic Council. Will you hear it?" More arguments. More confusion. The Council had not heard from humans in 5 years. They thought Earth was hiding somewhere in the outer rim, struggling to survive. They never imagined humans could build ships that made Council technology look primitive. "Land your ship at the diplomatic port," the High Chancellor finally ordered. "You will be escorted to the Council chamber under guard." "Thank you," Nam said politely. Then he added something that sent chills through every alien listening. "By the way, my ship is not alone. The rest of my fleet is here too. You just can't see them." The new soul descended toward the diplomatic port. Around it, space rippled as 6 more human ships became visible, then 12, then 20. They had been there all along, invisible and waiting. The Council's defense fleet found themselves surrounded by ships they could not have detected. Ships that could have destroyed every installation on Nexus Prime before the first alarm sounded. Ships that chose to reveal themselves as a gesture of peaceful intent. Ambassador Jung Hyesu stepped off the new soul wearing a simple black dress uniform. She was 38 years old with confident eyes and a diplomat's training. She had come to deliver humanity's message to the Council that had rejected them. The Council chamber was exactly as she remembered from the recordings. The same high walls, the same intimidating architecture, the same 12 alien species sitting in judgment. But something was different now. The aliens looked smaller somehow, less sure of themselves. They whispered among themselves in worried voices. Jung Hyesu walked to the center of the chamber. She did not bow. She did not ask permission to speak. She simply stood there with quiet dignity until they gave her their attention. "5 years ago you told humanity to leave," she began. "You said we were too primitive to be your equals, too stubborn to follow your wisdom, too curious for our own good." The chamber was silent. Every alien representative listened carefully. "You were right about one thing," Jung continued. "We were too curious. We asked questions you could not answer. We wanted to understand things you had forgotten how to question. When you sent us away, we took those questions with us." She gestured toward the ceiling, where the human fleet waited in space above. "We found answers. We learned things you never dreamed of. We became something you never expected us to become." The High Chancellor leaned forward. "What do you want? Human?" Jung Hyesu smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it was not entirely kind either. We want you to know the truth. For 5 years, human ships have been protecting your space. We stopped the pirates you could not catch. We saved the colonies you could not defend. We built the peace you could not maintain. Shocked voices filled the chamber. The aliens looked at each other with growing fear. The warnings came from the edge of space. Deep scanning stations at the rim of the galaxy detected something moving in the void. Something big. Something that consumed everything in its path. Dr. Bae Sunhee stared at the readings on her screen. She was humanity's leading expert on alien life forms. For 6 years, she had studied every species they encountered. She had never seen anything like this. They're not organic, she reported to Fleet Admiral Shin Jae-won. Not mechanical either. Something in between. They eat matter and turn it into more of themselves. Shin Jae-won was 53 years old and had commanded human forces since the exile began. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and scars on his hands from old battles. He studied the data with growing concern. "How many?" he asked. "Thousands of ships, maybe tens of thousands. They move in a perfect formation, consuming everything they encounter. Stars, planets, asteroids. Nothing stops them." Shin nodded grimly. These were the Devourers. Humanity had detected signs of them 3 years ago. Ancient machines from the dawn of time, programmed to consume and expand. They had been sleeping in the dark between galaxies. Now they were awake. How long until they reach inhabited systems? 6 months, Bay replied. Maybe less if they accelerate. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was still arguing about humanity's offer. Some species wanted to accept the humans as equals. Others insisted the Council should remain supreme. The debate had gone on for weeks with no decision. That changed when the first reports arrived. The outer colony of Kepler Station sent a desperate message. Their long-range sensors showed an enormous fleet approaching from deep space. Ships that were not ships. Machines that devoured everything they touched. "This is impossible," declared the Valdari representative. "No force could be so large. No enemy could threaten the entire galaxy." The Keth delegate displayed images from Kepler Station's sensors. Dark shapes moving between the stars. Energy readings that broke their instruments. A fleet so vast it blotted out distant suns. "The humans warned us about this," she said quietly. 6 years ago, they tried to tell us something was coming from the void. We ignored their reports." The chamber fell silent. Ancient records were checked. Old files were reopened. Buried in forgotten databases, they found humanity's warnings. Report after report about strange signals from beyond the galaxy. Evidence of something huge moving in the darkness. The Council had dismissed every warning. Humans were primitive. What could they possibly know that advanced aliens did not? Captain Ko Min-hyuk received his orders while patrolling the frontier. His ship, the Soul Light, was one of humanity's newest vessels, fast, well-armed, and equipped with technology that could bend space itself. "Proceed to Kepler Station," Admiral Shin's message read. "Evacuate all civilians. Prepare defensive positions. The Devourers have arrived." Ko was 36 years old and had never seen real war. He had fought pirates and raiders, but nothing like this. Still, his crew trusted him. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. The Soul Light jumped to hyperspace and emerged near Kepler Station 12 hours later. What Ko saw there made his blood freeze. The Devourers filled space like a plague of metal locusts. Each ship was the size of a city. They moved in perfect coordination, consuming everything in their path. Asteroids vanished into their hulls. Small moons were devoured in minutes. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "I count over 3,000 enemy vessels. They're converting matter into energy and using it to build more ships." Ko watched in horror as a small planet disappeared into the Devourer fleet. The machines stripped away its atmosphere, consumed its oceans, and broke down its very atoms. In 6 hours, the planet was gone. In its place were 50 new Devourer ships. "Begin evacuation of the station," Ko ordered. "All civilian transports first. Military personnel will hold the line." The evacuation began immediately. Kepler Station held over 2 million beings from a dozen different species. Most had never imagined such danger existed. They fled in panic toward the inner systems. The Galactic Council's response was swift but useless. They sent their finest battle fleet to stop the Devourers. 300 warships with the most advanced weapons known to Council science. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the Council fleet was gone, consumed, converted into raw materials for more Devourer ships. Not one enemy vessel was destroyed. Panic spread through Council space. World after world prepared for evacuation. The great civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years faced their first real defeat. On Earth, President Lim Seong-jin called an emergency meeting. The leaders of humanity gathered in a secure bunker deep beneath the planet's surface. They had known this day would come. They had prepared for it their entire lives. "The Council's fleet is destroyed," Admiral Shin reported. "The Devourers are advancing on multiple fronts. At current speed, they'll reach the core systems in 3 months." Lim Seong-jin was 62 years old and had led Earth since the exile began. She was a small woman with kind eyes and an iron will. Under her leadership, humanity had grown from refugees to guardians. "What are our capabilities?" she asked. "We have 2,000 ships ready for battle," Shin replied. "Our technology is superior to the Devourers, but they outnumber us 20 to 1. Maybe more." The room was quiet. Everyone understood the math. Humanity was strong, but not strong enough to face this threat alone. They needed allies. They needed the very people who had rejected them. "Send a message to the Council," Lim decided. "Tell them we're willing to help, but only as equals." The message reached Nexus Prime 12 hours later. By then, 2 more Council fleets had been destroyed. The Devourers were consuming entire star systems. Billions of lives hung in the balance. The High Chancellor read humanity's offer with shaking hands. His 6 arms trembled as he understood the choice before them. Accept human leadership, or watch civilization die. "What are their terms?" asked the Keth representative. "Full partnership," the Chancellor replied. "Equal say in all decisions. Complete autonomy for human forces. They want us to trust them completely." "Never," declared the Moran delegate. "We do not bow to primitives." "Then you will bow to extinction," said a new voice. Ambassador Young Hyesu walked into the chamber without invitation. She wore the same black uniform as before, but now it seemed like the dress of a conqueror rather than a diplomat. "The Devourers have consumed 12 systems in the past week," she announced. "Your fleets cannot stop them. Your weapons cannot hurt them. Your pride will be the death of you all." The aliens stared at her with fear and anger. This human dared to lecture them in their own chamber. This primitive species claimed to be their only hope. "What makes you think you can succeed where we failed?" the High Chancellor demanded. Young smiled coldly. Because we saw them coming. Because we prepared. Because we asked the questions you were too proud to ask. She activated the holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked devourer fleets. Blue dots showed human positions. The aliens gasped when they saw how many blue dots there were. We have ships in every sector, Jung continued. We have weapons you cannot imagine. We have tactics they cannot predict, but most importantly, we have something you lost long ago. What? Whispered the Keth representative. The will to sacrifice everything for the greater good. At Kepler Station, Captain Ko Min-hyuk prepared for his final stand. The civilian evacuation was complete, but the Devourers were almost there. His small fleet of 20 ships faced 3,000 enemy vessels. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Shin. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Ko could see the bridge of humanity's greatest warship, the vessel that would lead their fleet into the final battle. Captain Ko, Shin said formally, you are hereby ordered to withdraw. Fall back to the secondary line. Sir, with respect, we can hold them here. Buy you more time. Shin shook his head. You've done enough, Captain. Your evacuation of Kepler Station saved 2 million lives. History will remember that. Ko wanted to argue, but he understood. This was not about glory. This was not about proving courage. This was about saving civilization itself. The Soul Light and its escort ships pulled back just as the Devourers reached Kepler Station. The machines consumed the abandoned platform in minutes, adding its mass to their growing fleet. But they had gained nothing useful. The real prize, the 2 million refugees, was safely beyond their reach. Humanity had saved them all. On Nexus Prime, the Council finally voted. It was not unanimous. 3 species refused to accept human leadership. They chose pride over survival. The other 9 chose to live. We accept your terms, the High Chancellor announced to Jung Hae-soo. Humanity will lead the defense of the galaxy. Jung nodded. Admiral Shin will coordinate all forces. Human commanders will be placed in charge of mixed fleets. Our technology will be shared with willing allies. And if we fail? Asked the Altarian delegate. Jung's expression was grim but determined. Then we fail together, as equals. The war was about to begin in earnest. Humanity would lead a desperate fight against an enemy that consumed worlds. They would risk everything to protect the species that had once rejected them. It was their nature. They could not do otherwise. The final battle began at the edge of the Centauri cluster. Admiral Park Won-ho commanded the largest fleet in galactic history. 2,000 human ships sailed alongside 8,000 vessels from 9 different alien species. They moved as one force with one purpose: stop the Devourers or die trying. Park was 47 years old and had learned warfare in the dark years of exile. He understood something the old council never had. Victory came not from superior technology alone, but from beings willing to sacrifice for each other. The Devourer fleet stretched across 3 star systems. 20,000 ships that had consumed countless worlds. They moved in perfect formation, each vessel the size of a city, each one hungry for more matter to devour. All ships, this is Admiral Park, he announced on the open channel. Today we fight not as separate species, but as one people. Human, Keth, Zephyrian, Altarian, we are all children of the same stars. Captain Lee Do-yun listened to the Admiral's words from the bridge of his own ship. Lee was now 74 years old, too old for combat command, but too experienced. to leave behind. He served as senior advisor to the fleet, the wise elder who had seen humanity's journey from the beginning. "Remember," Lee said quietly to the young officers around him, "we fight not for conquest, but for the right of all beings to exist. That is what makes us different from them." The Devourers attacked first. Their weapons tore holes in space itself, reaching across impossible distances to strike at the Allied fleet. 3 Keth destroyers vanished in the opening moments. An Altarian cruiser broke apart under the assault, but the Allied fleet did not break. Human commanders had learned from every Council defeat. They spread their ships in patterns the Devourers could not predict. They used tactics that confused the ancient machines. "Execute Plan Harmony," Park ordered. The Allied ships moved like dancers in a deadly ballet. Human vessels with their advanced shields protected alien ships with powerful weapons. Keth fighters, guided by human sensors, struck at Devourer weak points. Zephyrian support ships powered by human reactors kept the entire fleet supplied. Each species contributed what they did best. Together, they were stronger than any of them could be alone. The battle raged for 18 hours. Ships died on both sides, consumed by weapons that turned matter into energy. But for the first time since the war began, Devourer ships were being destroyed faster than they could replace themselves. President Lim Seong-jin watched the battle from Earth's command center. She was older now, her hair completely gray, but her eyes still held the fire that had led humanity through its darkest years. "The quantum disruption weapons are working," reported Dr. Kim Nari. "We're breaking down their molecular cohesion faster than they can adapt." Kim was now 52 and led the team that had developed humanity's most secret weapons. Technology that did not just destroy Devourer ships, but prevented them from using the wreckage to build new ones. "How many more do we need to stop?" Lim asked. "All of them," Kim replied grimly. "If even one ship escapes, it can rebuild the entire fleet given enough time and matter." Ambassador Cho Minji worked frantically to hold the alliance together. 3 species had already threatened to withdraw their fleets. The casualties were enormous. Entire worlds had been evacuated. Fear drove some toward surrender. The Morin. "Delegation is reconsidering," she reported to President Lim. "They want to negotiate with the Devourers." "Tell them the Devourers don't negotiate," Lim replied. "They consume. That's all they know how to do." Cho was 39 years old and had spent her career building bridges between species. Now she fought to keep those bridges from burning. Every species in the alliance had to trust human leadership completely. Any breakdown in cooperation would doom them all. The tide turned during the second day of battle. Captain Song Ji-hoon, now commanding a battle group of mixed human and alien ships, discovered something crucial about the Devourers. "They're not independent," he reported to Admiral Park. "There's a central control ship. It's coordinating their entire fleet." Song was 51 years old and had fought more battles than any other human captain. His tactical genius had saved countless lives over the years. Now it might save civilization itself. "Where is it?" Park demanded. "Hidden in the center of their formation, disguised as a regular Devourer ship, but it's sending out control signals." Park studied the tactical display. The control ship was protected by thousands of other vessels. Reaching it would require a sacrifice that might cripple their own fleet. "All ships, prepare for final assault," he ordered. "Target is the control vessel. Everything else is secondary." The Allied fleet charged into the heart of the Devourer formation. Ships died by the hundreds as they pushed through layers of enemy defenses. Human vessels used their advanced shields to protect alien ships. Alien vessels with superior firepower cleared paths for human attack craft. Captain Ko Min-hyuk led the final assault on the control ship. His Soul Light and 50 other vessels broke through the last line of defenders. They faced the massive control vessel alone, their weapons small against its enormous bulk. All ships, concentrate fire on the command center, Ko ordered. The Allied ships poured everything they had into the target. Quantum disruptors tore at its hull. Plasma cannons melted its armor. Gravity weapons crushed its structure. For a moment, nothing happened. The control ship seemed unharmed by their assault. Then, slowly, it began to break apart. The effect on the Devourer fleet was immediate. Ships that had moved in perfect formation suddenly became confused. They fired at each other. They crashed into obstacles. They consumed their own vessels by mistake. "The network is down," Song reported with excitement. "They've lost central coordination." What followed was not really a battle. It was a cleanup operation. The Allied fleet destroyed the confused Devourer ships one by one. Ships that had seemed unstoppable just hours before now died easily. Their coordination gone, their purpose forgotten. The war was over. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to rebuild. But it was a different galaxy now. The old Galactic Council was gone, replaced by something new, something better. The new Galactic Compact was signed on Earth. Representatives from 47 species gathered in humanity's simple capital city. They came not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals working toward a common future. President Lim Seong-jin, now 83 years old, stood before the assembly. Her voice was weaker than it once was, but her words carried the weight of history. "We gather not to celebrate victory," she said, "but to promise that such darkness will never threaten the galaxy again. We are one people now, united by sacrifice and strengthened by diversity." Captain Lee Do-yun sat in the front row, listening to words that completed a journey begun 15 years earlier. The quiet young captain who had walked away from the council chamber was now an elder statesman, respected by all species. Ambassador Park Min-ho, now 91 years old, sat beside him. They were the last survivors of the original human delegation. They had seen their species go from rejected outcasts to reluctant leaders. "Do you think they learned?" Park asked quietly, echoing words from so long ago. Lee smiled as he watched young beings from dozens of species working together, planning a future none of them could build alone. "Some did," he replied. "That's enough to start with. The new Galactic Compact established principles that the old council had never understood. No species was superior to another. All had the right to their own path. Questions were encouraged, not forbidden. Unity came from choice, not force. Humanity accepted the role of first among equals, but only reluctantly. They established the Galactic Defense Corps, a military force drawn from all member species. They shared their technology freely. They protected worlds that could not protect themselves. Most importantly, they never stopped exploring. Human ships continued to push into the unknown regions of space, always watching for new threats, always asking the questions that others were afraid to ask. The galaxy was safe, it was peaceful, it was united, but it was also vigilant. The Devourers had taught them all a hard lesson about the price of complacency. In the deep archives of the New Galactic Library, scholars preserved the records of the old council. Future generations would read about the species that drove away their greatest allies out of pride and fear. They would learn about the cost of prejudice and the value of those who ask difficult questions. The memorial to the lost worlds stood in the center of New Geneva, Earth's capital. It bore the names of every planet consumed by the devourers. Billions of beings who died because the galaxy's leaders were too proud to listen to warnings from primitive humans. Captain Lee Do-yun visited the memorial often in his final years. He would stand before the wall of names and remember the price of the Council's mistake. He would think about the worlds that might have been saved if humanity had been accepted as equals from the beginning. But he did not dwell on anger or regret. The galaxy was better now. Young beings of all species learned together, worked together, explored together. They asked questions without fear. They celebrated differences instead of trying to eliminate them. On his last visit to the memorial, Lee was joined by a group of students from the Galactic Academy. They were young beings from a dozen different worlds, all working toward careers in exploration and diplomacy.